Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. I'm joined today by Ricky Addington.
Hey everybody.
It's just me and Ricky right now. It's during the summer. Things are going to kind of, dip and peak and stuff. We're still going to keep doing the shows.
The secret is I actually cut everyone's internet lines so that I could get on the show.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to be the star.
Super fan.
We are the Bella Lost Souls podcast. This is episode 192. We're fortunate enough, we got to see the Q&A today, the second part of the Q&A today.
I watched it at work while tax dollars paid my salary. It was very exciting. So I took advantage of that. I did burn through all of my data, though, so that's a bummer.
Well, it's probably worth it. Although I don't know if it's worth it or not. Let's talk about the Primaris Marines. I know that they've been getting some, I don't want to say mixed reviews, but there's been a lot of mixed reaction to the Primaris Marines, and I think it's just some people that are, I don't know. I think
it's a fear of change. It's a fear of change, and the issue is, I think where the issue is, and I think I felt a little bit of that too, was, oh my gosh, are they trying to phase out my Marines that I have? And, they've screamed from the mountaintops, no, that's not what we're doing. These are just,
that's jury's still out on that, especially when we got
that's what they're saying. I'm going to, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm not begrudging them. I think that they're doing some cool things with the way that they're organizing the unit structure that we've seen, like in the Intercessor Squad, is that the name of it?
Yes.
That it's built, to me, very similar to how a tactical squad in the Horus Heresy Legions is built, to mean that they have a singular purpose. They're a bunch of bolter-type Marines, although that Sarge looks absolutely epic. I cannot wait to put some red paint on them.
Every one of them look epic, but I think you misspoke there. You meant green paint.
I don't track with traitors.
Oh, gosh. We'll start this fight. They're going to be cool. And, they look amazing, and if somebody shows up to the table with an entire army of these and says, these are my true scale Marines, I'm just going to say, okay, do it.
Yes, they are. It's fine.
yes, they are. You're magnificent.
Well, I think that the neat thing where I was going with that is in the Horse Heresy, you've got the Tactical Support Squad, because we've seen these guys with plasma guns. We've seen some models with plasma guns. And in the Tactical Support Squads, it's a whole unit of Special Weapon Marines. And then they've got a whole unit of Devastate, 10 guys with las cannons or autocannons or whatever in Heresy. And that maybe, because Rabute is the one that's coming back and doing this, and organizing this stuff, maybe he's bringing some of that old school unit organization with him while designing these new guys.
Well, I think if 10,000 years has shown us anything, it's that the Codex Astartes hasn't quite worked out the way he intended. So maybe it's time to shake it up a bit. So let's see some big giant Marines. I guess bigger giant Marines. Let's give every one of them a plasma gun and see what happens. And enough wounds to survive the Gets Hot roll.
That's funny. I hadn't thought about that.
So that's fun.
We'll go over their stats. They're at least the important parts of their stat line a little bit, because they're different than Marines. And what we learned from the Q&A today is that regular Marines, I don't want to call Adeptus Astartes regular Marines, but
it feels wrong. Yeah,
it does feel a little wrong.
Let's just attack Marine.
Attack Marine can become a Primaris Marine.
Wait, they can become that? I thought that was so. Basically, they can be upgraded.
I believe they can be upgraded.
Okay, I didn't hear that, so I may have missed that. I missed the beginning of the live show.
Yeah, well, let me mention that. Let me talk on that for just 1 second. Is that all the people that are giving these mixed reactions? I'll say that that is all that 90% of the people that joined the Q&A wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, there's 4 people in there asking the hard-hitting, Lois Lane, Daily Planet, journalistic questions, and then I would say that was 4 people, and everyone else was definitely more interested in what was in Dude's coffee mug and what the backstory for the Primaris Marines were. So was kind of hoping he would have answered one of those "How are flyers going to work?" questions, but we got what we got.
Yeah, look, all will be revealed, and I'm imagining before we know it. Now it feels like forever away, but it's got to be coming soon at this point, even if it is just a compilation of what we've seen so far. Because the rule book is only 12 pages, and we're supposedly going to get that for free.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that.
So it'll come about. We'll get there.
Yeah, this is the slowest Band-Aid removal in the history of Warhammer, though.
Well, the Primaris Marines, I think, again, the idea is that they have, in their squads, they're more points and they have less flexibility in what they can take. So you're not going to have 5 of them with a las cannon and a flamer, or a plasma pistol and a, whatever. They're just going to be your bolter squad. And if I had to extrapolate past that, you'll have like a special weapon squad and a devastator squad and an assault squad that are not multifunctional. They're not cross-functional in their use.
I really hope we get to that Devastator type squad and they're all shooting assault cannons from the hip. That's what I want to see.
Or wrist-mounted.
Oh my gosh, wrist-mounted assault cannons. That trumps my vision.
Like you have the Centurion walking around with like armor, and you just got this Primaris Marine run by with
dude walks up and smirks at him
with it strapped to his wrist. It's barrel just coming way off his wrist.
That's cute. Watch this.
I don't even know how I would feel about that. I'm sure with the way they've been modeling this stuff and how kind of gaga I am over the Sarge, I think I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, well, we always say stuff and we're like, no, that's jumping the shark. And then you realize the entire hobby is jumping the shark. 40K, everything's so over the top. It's the next thing comes out and people are like, okay, we're fine. You're a big fan of what's the Grey Knight,
the
baby
Dread Knight.
The Dread Knight. Thank you. Come on, you remember when that thing came out? Man,
I loved it then.
Yeah.
I didn't like the static pose, but then you know what? I had some talented friends make me up some amazingly posed Dread Knights that I'm in love with.
I give it a week before somebody puts an Intercessor squad, a Primaris Marine, in a Dread Knight. Somebody will do it.
Or just form it up like Voltron. So it's
five.
Maybe that's what they do.
Yeah,
maybe 5 Primaris Marines, 1 from each squad. You got 1 Devastator, 1 TAC. I know there's Intercessor and something, but they all form around Gilliman and make Devastator.
Like, I know in practice this is the worst idea ever, but I'm still going through the modeling potential there. I mean, I would laugh at and point at you, but I would also buy you a beer if you showed up with that.
I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think that's in the model line currently.
No, hope not.
But these Primaris Marines are strong, and they do have different stats. And specifically, we can talk about the wounds. They have 2 wounds, which sets them apart immediately. But I think they're also faster on the movement and more attacks.
I don't think the movement's going to be faster. I know Terminators are going to be 4 inches. The Intercessors are going to be 6 inches. And then I had it in my head that a normal tactical Marine was going to be 6 inches as well. That may get dropped down to 5. I'm not 100% sure. Have we seen their stat line? I've seen so much. I can't even keep it all together.
The first one we got was the stat line for a Marine and Gilliman and a Dreadnought.
Yeah. Okay. So that was weeks ago.
Yeah.
It feels like months. It feels like months ago that we saw that, but. 6-inch movement on them, so that's good. And 2 attacks base? I mean, everyone's 2 attacks base, 2 wounds, 6-inch move, hitting on 3s, wounding on. Well, I assume. Let's see here. Well, wounding will be different. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking Age of Sigmar. But 3s to hit in shooting and assault. They're no slouch. They're definitely not a slouch. And it's got that AP -1 on the bolt rifles.
And that's the 30-inch bolter, right?
Yeah.
It's the bolt rifle. So it's 30 inches. So that gives them effective threat range of 36 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what they've done here, too, is that this article wasn't about grenades, but they've given us the grenade stats. And those are interesting. We don't know if it's going to be – because they've got – the rule there is, it tells the name of the grenade, and then the rule is grenade 1, right? Is that what it says, grenade 1?
The crack grenade is grenade 1, as in, one. We're going to go ahead and assume 1 shot there. And then the frag grenade is grenade D6. So it's you're going to get D6 hits off of that.
So a 6-inch range on those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, different stats, obviously replacing the small blast marker. And that's interesting because it's D6, but I kind of assumed that small blasts were going to be D3 across the board.
D6 it's pretty darn surprising. I mean, that is, it's strength 3, but guess what? When you roll up on some, fire warriors or something, throwing 6 shots into them is huge. And heaven forbid they let every one of the Marines throw that grenade in a squad. I'm not even going to care about my bolt pistol or my bolt rifle. I'm going to get up close to some squishy dudes and make them eat grenades.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. That'll be great.
Yeah, that is. So it's got to be. That's got to mean grenade. The grenade rule has to mean something. I would imagine that, and that's what. It's very important. I know we said this before, but it's worth mentioning again because it's good. As we get caught up in this enthusiasm, is that we're not reading all the rules. We're only reading a conversation about the rule.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see what rapid fire actually means. Grenade, heck, even pistol. We know roughly what they're going to mean. It's not like they're going to reinvent the wheel on this stuff, but we don't know exactly how it's going to apply to the game. It's you change one word, and all of a sudden something's going to play entirely different than what we know it to do. But you know what? They've play tested this for 18 months before we're getting it, so I'm not really scared. I think we're going to have a pretty good time with it.
My apologies to follow back up. The Space Marine, the Tactical Marine, has a movement of 6 also.
Okay. You would think them being taller, they could step it out a little.
The Mark 10 armor is clearly heavier, so it compensates for their height.
I guess so, man. You'd think maybe they'd put some stronger pistons or something in the servos. I don't know.
We're going deep down the rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, like we've never done that before.
Right, I know. I could talk about this for the rest of the show. Is the Mark 10? What happened?
Yeah,
to the
we'll
Mark
just
9?
debate the armor.
Where's the Mark 9 armor?
You don't know. Well, you don't know. Maybe that was a failed experiment, and that'll show up in the hands of chaos. You don't know. You don't know, Paul.
That's important because let's think about this. If a regular Marine could be turned into a Primaris Marine, that means Chaos Space Marines can be turned into Primaris Chaos Space Marines.
I just, you Chaos fanboys, I just can't even do it. No.
Well,
I'm going to say no.
This is look. Now, why is it okay for Call, Ted Priest, Manjo's Call, or whatever his full title is, to jack around with the Gene Seed, and it's not okay for Fabius Bile to do it?
Well, wasn't Fabius Bile he was a Marine,
yeah,
right?
He is a Marine.
Okay, yeah. So that right there is enough for me because the Marines, they kind of shun that sort of thing. Whereas the Mechanicus, I mean, if you look, the Fabricator General, the guy, the head honcho, went to Horus because Horus said, hey, guess what? You do you. And he turned half of Mars to Horus. So these guys could care less about ethics. They don't research certain things because they're told not to. But
you're talking about Marines.
No, I'm talking about Mars. But
Mars,
as soon as you let them, they're going to go nuts.
I don't know if you're trying to make or break my point here. So let's just move on.
Well, what I'm saying is Fabius Bile should not have done it. Because the Marines look down on that sort of thing. Mars, those people will do whatever they can, and as soon as
but why
Call gets the tiniest bit of, because he was sanctioned, he got the tiniest bit of sanction, and he's going to run with it. Fabius Bile was not sanctioned.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. Although I think we can make a strong case that Fulgrim sanctioned it the same way that Gilliman has sanctioned Call. So
you got a point. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Okay, well we can at least
a douchebag though.
I'm not a Fulgrim fan at all, so I'm playing Fulgrim's advocate, as the case may be.
The fabulous Marines, I just no.
This to me again, it is just kind of interesting to see the way that they've spec'd out this Incessor squad. And again, forgive me if I'm screwing up the name here. But it is
intercessors.
The way that they have spec'd them out is very similar to the Horus Heresy tac squads, and I'm curious if that's going to play out the same way across the rest of their line. And we already heard that we're going to get a transport and a dreadnought. Now, like I mentioned, if I was Gilliman, the first thing I would have done was y'all figure out a way to rig that Storm Raven to carry my behind.
Yeah.
Do you think that things like a Primarch or even monster creatures in general are going to be able to get into vehicles, especially if they're designed for carrying around these bigger models.
So we actually heard a little bit about that on the live cast today when they were talking about it, in that you're going to be able to put as many units as you want into a transport, but it's going to be limited based off of your keywords. So like an intercessor squad, for instance, is infantry. And then there's Primaris and Intercessor Squad and all that in there. So we don't know exactly how it's going to play out with the keywords, but they have said if you can hold 20 models in this transport, it doesn't matter where they come from, as long as they will fit in that transport.
There's space in the transport.
Exactly.
So you can have multiple squads. Like if you had a Rhino that we can assume holds 10, you could still have a combat squad in there.
Yeah, you could have two 5-man squads in a Rhino. They're going to go that route with it, which is good. Thank you, GW. Finally, something that makes some sense there. Like it never made sense that you couldn't get your buddies in the tank, even though we know it holds 10. So, hey, cool. Now, I don't know if they're going to have, you would think if they were going to have like a bulky kind of rule or something like that, we would have seen it on the intercessors.
Well, maybe they just aren't bulky.
Maybe, but they're the size of a Terminator. So
or maybe that's the thing where the transport has to say like keyword transport, keyword Primaris.
Yeah,
they can hold Primaris Marines.
Yeah, so we're not real sure how those keywords are going to interplay with one another, but we do know that size. The bigger the model, it's going to affect that. So the way they kind of worded it is that we should see, something kind of like the bulky rule, but for the most part, it's going to be more streamlined, I think.
So I'm way off in like tinfoil hat land here, but could this dreadnought for one of these Primaris factions be? You think that could be something like Ferrus Manus coming back?
That'd be cool. I'm not going to say no.
It's unlikely that the kit is that, but the potential. How else are they going to get some of these deceased Primarchs back into the picture?
Do you really want them all back?
I just want one back, Ricky, but I don't want to make it seem like that I'm in this just for myself.
Sanguinius is dead. You and Chris Morgan need to have some sort of memorial service and release some doves or something into the air.
You don't understand how this works. See, we still feel Sanguinius in times of strife before the eve of a battle, before the eve of a grand tournament. Sanguinius is in my head. That's how this works.
Yeah, unfortunately, he is clearly dead. Okay, so we have to accept that. And here's the thing. You want him back. Okay, you do. But it takes away that sacrifice from the story. If Sanguinius comes back, him dying doesn't really mean as much in the story. So I don't want
to have a real ugly cry right now.
Someone needs to hold you while we have the conversation.
I know that you're right, but it doesn't change the fact that he needs to come back.
This day in history, Paul Murphy admits that Ricky is right. Write that down, everyone.
Well, I know that you're conceptually right. I'll say that you have a point that is right.
You know what? Just let me have it. Just stop talking for 2 seconds. It's your show. Stop talking. Let's leave it at that. Ricky was right. Moving on.
We can move on. But the Primaris Marines, and I'm going back to them because they're clearly something that people have emotion about, and that's fine because they're brand new. And anytime, what we've learned is that anytime you introduce something that is completely brand new into this hobby, where that has 30 years of history. 3 decades, and has longer history than a large portion of the people that are actually playing the game right now. Their age, right?
I've been playing this game for 20 years. So, there's people out there. There's a lot of people out there who've played longer than me. And so when you start messing with that, there's this fear of betrayal.
It contradicts some bit of story that you've had, supplanted as the absolute biblical truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, we saw the same thing with the new Star Wars movie, because when Disney took over, the expanded universe went away. And man, I've met people like me personally. I was fine with it because not all of that was gold, but there are the people who read every book and they were crushed that went away. And so, there's just that fear of change and that, I guess the thing to say is just, hey, just calm down, trust GW. I promise nobody loves Warhammer 40,000 more than Games Workshop does. You can't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can't.
They're not going to botch it.
That. Well, at least that we have to be able to accept moving the things forward, and of course they have to invent new things for us to buy. That's how businesses work.
Well, yeah, it's not a charity, and that's I've had that conversation with people before. They're talking about the price of the models. Well, hold up, Skippy. There, look at what you would consider cheap models, and look at the quality of them. So it's you have that conversation with everything, but other than the 32 millimeter rollout,
value of course is relative, but the actual, you can't deny the fact that they have to continue to invent ways to further their own goals of being a business.
They have to make money at the end of the day, otherwise the game goes away.
I think what they've learned though is that if they do things in the vein that is very much in line with how the grim dark works, then it does better. And so that's one of the reasons that I can trust that this is going to be good, or at least in line with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. This could have went either way. They could have brought these out and just been like, "Hey, here's some new bigger Marines." But
no, these are now the Ultramarines.
Yeah, exactly. What if they did that? What if they just come out and said, "Hey guys, we're redoing the Marine line."
Oh, have you ever seen the movie In the Mouth of Madness?
No.
Well, you should watch. There's a scene of they're just madness and murder in the streets. It's like this. Let's move past this because I am excited about the Primaris Marines, and I'm really looking. And they basically said that they're going to inherit the flaws of the chapter, so they're going to be the chapter Marines, or they're going to be able to be taken in your whatever chapter you desire them to be taken in, and you're not going to be compromising theme or fluff choices by taking them. Now they didn't say that. That's me. I said that last part, but I think if I can take a Primaris Marine that performs a function on the table, which we'll talk about here in a second, like with the tactical reserves we're going to discuss here in just a moment, and it is also a Blood Angel in my Blood Angel army, I'm going to be okay with it. Yeah,
I mean, and it's going to be super easy. You'll just sprinkle a little bit of glitter on them, and they'll be like a vampire, right? Like your little Twilight space vampires. That's what your guys are, right?
I've seen that scene that you're referring to.
Trolling on you Blood Angels players is my favorite thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I had a physical reaction. But,
I could feel you tensing up over the air. But I mean, I think that would be cool if Primaris Wolfen. I mean, if that ever comes out, Space Wolf players are going to be foaming at the mouth over that. That's going to be great. I mean, I'm never going to put them in Dark Angels robes because no way are those guys getting in the Deathwing. It's not happening. So, other than that, I'm over the moon about them.
Yeah, so let's move on to tactical reserves, because this is one of those things that does absolutely fundamentally change the way the game is going to be played.
Yeah, well, I guess go ahead and introduce it, because I was about to just start going into
start talking about it,
because this one to me is one of the biggest things to happen to the game. I think this one rule.
What this article says, it's an article on the Warhammer community site. I'm sure you've read it by now if you're listening to the show, but if you haven't, it's up there, and it's titled Tactical Reserves. And what this article says, and several of them have said this, but there are caveats or different and they're extensions of the rules when you're talking about matched play. Now, we are, of course, narrative and storyline gamers and campaign players and whatever, but the main focus of this show is going to be about leading up to matched play discussions. So what I'm about to read is the way tactical reserves work in matched play. Instead of being set up on the battlefield during deployment, many units have the ability to be set up on teleportariums, in high orbit, in reserve, any number of things. And they also go into the Trigon here where it says you deploy them underground. So clearly you're obviously not digging a hole and putting your Trigon in there. That's just, I think it's cool that they're working in theme and narrative elements into every unit that's going to translate into a rule, which will give them the effect you expect them to have on the tabletop. It was a long way of saying that the theme's going to match the rules, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
In order to arrive on the battlefield mid-game as reinforcements, when setting up your army during deployment for a match play game, at least half the total number of units in your army must be set up on the battlefield, even if every unit in your army has an ability that would allow them to be set up elsewhere, like underground or in space or the Eye of Terror. Furthermore, in match play games, any unit that has not arrived on the battlefield by the end of the third battle round counts as having been destroyed.
Pretty brutal.
What this article doesn't tell us is the mechanic in which you bring your army in with. So we don't know if it's one of those things to where, half your army comes in turn one, or is deployed turn one, half of the half, 25% comes in on turn two, and then 25% comes in turn three of what you put in your reserve. We don't know. We don't know what it is yet.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's not going to do that with like 25% per turn, just because that's super lame. But also there's
a large portion of your army in reserve that you are going to be running a risk of them just getting eaten up by the warp.
I'm curious whether there's even going to be a role. Because we've seen it in Age of Sigmar that they're just letting you pick when they come on, but Stormcast Eternals now they are rolling as well, and it's not. The Stormcast Eternals have that same rule, basically like this, is that if they don't come on the table by the end of the game, they count as destroyed. But at no point in Age of Sigmar with the new Stormcast Eternal rules do they automatically come in. So. It could be possible. Hey, what I could see happening is starting on turn one, you roll. They may come in, they may not. But if they're not in by turn three, they're dead. So I could see that happening. But I just don't see it. Hey, you put your stuff in reserves and you're going to roll a D6 and only have 2 chances to bring it in. To me, that's super duper risky. So
okay, fair. I see what you mean. What you're saying is you think you'll be able to pick and choose what comes in when it comes in.
Yeah, I think we'll see.
That's
more
your prediction.
Control. I'm going to predict more control over what's coming in and when.
So let me also ask you this then. Look in your crystal ball and see what are things like the Corsair's ability to send you back into reserves still going to exist.
No.
And you don't think so? Okay.
No, because what that does is it goes away from what they're trying to do now. Look at what they're trying to do right now, and that is to get you playing 40K, to get models on and off a table. It's get stuff on the table, kill it, right. Yeah, and interact with it. And that's the thing about these null deployment armies. And I am the first to say how much I love drop pod armies. Even playing against them, they're just fun and thematic, and they're so Space Marine. When like here comes 10 drop pods down in your face. That's what Space Marines do. So that's going to be kind of a bummer to see that go away. But at the same time, when you take turn one, it's when you play a drop pod army. You go first. Okay, all right. Now, guess what? That's a whole turn. You don't get to interact with me.
I'm with you. Let me jump in here for a second. I think that there was a lot of things that existed within 6th and 7th edition that were products of it. It's like one thing was created, and so something else got created. Tau and Taldar were an extreme menace, so I had to create the Super Friends. That's that. So, but then things like null deploy had to exist against, shooting arms. Same thing. It was an answer to a problem that existed, so it just had to happen.
Yeah.
Those same problems may not exist in 8th, and so we don't even know what the solutions are. So to think or to be overly kind of troubled by what the current solution was going away might not be founded when we actually get all the rules in our hands.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that with a lot of things. We've got people freaking out about everything right now. That it's Chicken Little situation.
But change. No one likes to be Ricky. People like change. They do not like to be changed.
Exactly. So it's and that's the thing. Everybody. And I'm with it myself on this because I've been so excited about my Terminators getting better. So my Deathwing army is going to be awesome, and or in my head it's going to be the end all be all of 40K. I'm like, all right, my Terminators are going to be great. They're going to be great. Wait, what? I can't deep strike with all of them. because all of a sudden then it changes what I had in my head, and now I'm freaking out about the whole thing. So I'm right there with people, but you'll notice everybody's excited about everything until it fundamentally changes their current army, and when it's your turn for change, all of a sudden we see the angry face emoji on your Facebook instead of the the thumbs up. Did we mention the fact that half of it? You got to start with half on, right? And then
you got to start with half of your units on. So, and there'll be ways to, of course, there's going to be optimization around just that. Like anytime you have a mechanic, well, that's great. I'll just have half my army's going to be Nurgling squads.
I mean, it's great. I'm going to put some Land Raiders out there because guess what? Land Raiders are going to be awesome this edition.
They probably are. But let's talk about what we do know. They give us specific rules for how the Trigon works, and I think that we can assume that this 9-inch mechanic that we're about to talk about is going to be standard for deployment shenanigans.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this right now. If you don't think that subterranean assault rule for this Trigon is one of the most thematic rules you've seen in years, quit playing 40k. This rule is fantastic. I cannot wait to play against my buddy with his Tyranids and a Trigon come up and eat me and a bunch of his stupid little Tyranids swarm all over the table. It's going to be amazing.
So during deployment, you can set up the Trigon underground. I'm reading the rule right now. It's a subterranean assault.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the same time, you can set up a high fleet, and that's the keyword in the brackets there, troops unit, in the Trigon's tunnel. At the end of your at the end of any of your movement phases, set up the Trigon anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. Remember, that's more than 9 inches away. If there is another unit in the Trigon's tunnel, set it up at the same time, wholly within 3 inches of the Trigon and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. Any model that you cannot place in this way are destroyed. Any models are destroyed. Now, nothing in there says that they can't act normally. We haven't talked about that yet. This seems to indicate that things coming in from reserve like this, tactical reserves, are going to be able to act normally. So they'll be able to charge and whatever. So then it goes on to say so we see this can be a quite powerful ability. Not only can the Trigon be delivered into the heart of the enemy force, but the accompanying unit of Tyranids can also be, and there's nothing stopping them from charging this turn either. Though that 9-inch distance, that you are more than 9 inches away from the enemy, you're going to need to roll above average, essentially. But I know this is just one of those dials, right? So they're going to be units that probably one will get around this 9-inch rule in some way. There'll be units that have fleet, and then we're going to talk about the stratagems in the next segment that we get to.
Yeah, and make sure, pay attention there. That subterranean assault, nowhere does it say you have to roll to bring that on. There's no reserve roll for it or anything.
And this is at the end of any of your movement phases.
You get to pick. You better pick no later than turn 3, though. But
I think
you get to pick.
I'm going to have to play the long game on this.
Yeah. And, I'm going to hold this baby on till turn 5. Okay, thanks. But it's great. Trigon, I think the Trigon's going to make a big comeback, and not just for silly blast marker shenanigans that we saw briefly there in 7th edition. I think the Trigon is going to be a lot of fun and very thematic. But I think this is what we're going to see for those deep striking type units. I think we're going to see flavorful stuff like this for Terminators, for Tyranids, for anything that's going to come in. I can't wait to see what Assault Marines get. I think we could see some really fun stuff with Assault Marines too coming in. So I'm excited about the reserves game.
Yeah, if I can bring down Assault Marines and 9 inches away and roll the dice, that's infinitely better than they were for the last 2 or 3 editions.
Paul, if I've been saying it since I got sucked into Age of Sigmar, but if they would make Assault Marines play like prosecutors in Age of Sigmar, they move 12 inches, but when they charge with 3d6, and they can charge up to 18 inches away.
Oh, that's pretty strong.
It is such a fun rule, and
that's how far they're willing to push it, Rick. Yeah, I'm willing to bet we'll see things like that. It'll be like Vanguard veterans or something like that. That may get something a rule to that degree, but I think that they're willing to match up the what I think they're willing to blend what the storybooks tell us these units can do with actual rules this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. And that's what, it's when we finally sit down and started getting into Sigmar and we're like, oh, well, these are all so thematic. These are thematic. Well, they should do this with 40K. And now that they're doing it, it opens them up because they're not trapped into saying, we need this universal special rule, this universal special rule. For before they had a very limited set of rules that they had to pick and choose from. And then, you had to learn it, all these other, it just got kind of out of control. And now what they can do is say, hey, what should this unit do? Okay, it does that. They don't have to try to shoehorn it into something. And so I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool, man. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about the stratagems.
Cool.
You're listening to Forge the Narrative.
Hey, everybody, we are back. I'm still Paul. I got Ricky here.
I am still here, surprisingly.
Ricky, thanks for holding it down with me.
No
problem.
Everyone
else is unavailable this week. I think we'll be back to normal next week, though. I've been doing all these reaction videos on YouTube and posting up stuff, just chatter about this stuff on Twitter. And they've been fun to do, man. So they're doing daily videos on the Forge the Narrative YouTube page, all about this content we've been getting, because we've been getting almost daily, teasers and content about the new edition.
Yeah, it's if first off, you because I have Forge the Narrative subscribed. Every time I go to YouTube right now, there is a wall of Paul Murphy's face on my YouTube for that whole Forge the Narrative feed on my YouTube. So that's a little unsettling, but. Yeah, I mean, it's like every single day we're getting something. So it's almost like you can't keep up with all the information. So
that's what we're here for.
There you go.
You keep up with this.
Get it while you drive.
Yeah,
there it is.
The YouTube stuff is there. I mean, just it helps me process it. It helps get it out there in kind of a different format with the reaction of this crew in there built in there. But a couple days ago, we got stratagems. Now, we knew that the more you committed to your detachment, or if it was a detachment that had, lots of units to fill out the minimum and maximum, then it was going to come standard with a higher amount of command points. So like the lowest detachment that you could buy, and there's going to be 14, 15 in the rule book? Like the main rules?
I think they said something like 15.
Calling it a rule book might be too much. In the
rules packet.
With the lowest detachment or the lowest commitment detachment, I don't think there were any command points. With the largest one that they mentioned, what is this? What's the name of it?
I didn't even know
something.
The biggest one was a battalion. It had 9.
Yeah, 9 command points.
And I swear the smallest one had I thought it had 1. I thought it had
I don't think it had it. I don't think it had any.
I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah, I was thinking it was 1, 3, and 9 or something with the examples that they gave us. Or was
a battle forged army? That's what we need to say. A battle forged army earns command points based on how efficient they are likely to be at logistics of war. And I know, and that means how many slots you filled up or whatever.
Right.
Armies with a balanced mix of units and plenty of types of troops, whatever, they may get around 3 command points to start with.
I got it pulled up here, and I will concede that you are correct. It is none for a patrol detachment, 3 for a battalion, and 9 for a brigade.
There you go, brigade. So thanks for bringing that up, because I would have had people down the wrong path. But the article goes on to tell us that characters or other things that you take may give you a bonus command point. So Bjorn the Fell-Handed here gives you a bonus command point. I have to imagine Gilliman is going to give you some bonus command points. The Avatar, Eldrad, Oshova, Gazgul, you name Yarick, all these people will probably give you some type of bonus command structure as well.
I think Yarick's just going to give you 15. It's all going to be something related to hitting you in the face with a power fist.
Hey,
I'm okay with that.
I've had him hold up a Transcendent Satan before, so anything is possible.
Oh man, there you go.
Yeah, I'll take it. So with we know that Bjorn and all these other things will do it. So then you can go on to spend the command points. And they've shown us 3 stratagems. We spend the command points on stratagems. And the ones they've showed us are the command reroll, to reroll any single dice, and then the counteroffensive, which helps you interrupt the pace of combat and we'll read that just in a second. That's going to be important. And then insane bravery, which allows you to pass a single morale check, no matter what the modifier is. It doesn't say what no matter what it is, but it says you can pass it. So, of course, we're assuming that it's no matter what the modifier is. These are all pretty good, but they're just a sample of what we can expect to see.
Yeah, and I mean they talked about that on the live show, in that we're going to see basically the more you focus in on keywords, such as if you play like an Imperial army, just the forces of the Imperium, you might get just these 3 basic stratagems, because an Imperium Battleforged army, you'll get these stratagems. Then if you go into Space Marines, you're going to get another set of stratagems in addition to these. And then if you go even closer in and focus purely on White Scars, you may end up with 3 sets of stratagems that you can choose from. From the way it looks, you're not going to get more points, more command points or copper pennies to use, but you get more to choose from. So,
you do, yeah, exactly. You'll have a bigger variety of things that'll be theming to your army. I'm sure there's going to be a power level involved with some of this stuff too. But let's talk about that command reroll. I was mentioning that you're going to come up in our reserve with a unit. You're going to want to charge. You're going to need at least a 9, because you remember you're 9 or more. You're more than 9 away.
Yep.
So, and then even with the Phantom Inch, with assault, you're going to have to roll above average. So this command reroll for 1 combat point could turn the whole tide of a battle just by getting off a very critical assault.
Well, for most people, unfortunately, you can't roll higher than 3. So
Right.
no matter which die you re-roll, you're only coming up with 8 max. So you're still screwed.
Yeah.
But normal people are going to get a lot of traction out of that. But the thing is, okay, so you get your guys in, you get a bunch of squads in using, you make 2 of them, and then your third one doesn't, but you need them. Okay, I burn a command point, and boom, I re-roll it and I get in. But guess what? Your opponent gets counteroffensive, and he can burn command points and play that stratagem to counteract your super duper assault that's coming in.
Well, and what it says, the stratagem, that one you're talking about, the counteroffensive, is the stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that has charged has fought.
Yep. So
then select
you'll
one
get
of your own eligible units. So they get 1 up. They're going to get to fight with 1. And
you
then
better make it a good one.
Then you get to interrupt.
Yep, it's cool. I like it. I feel like there's some balance in there. There's, it's you have to make those decisions too. I feel like they've put a lot of tough decisions in the game for you, and that's pretty cool, because it's, well, do I use that to kind of mitigate this, or do I write these guys off so that I can use some other stratagem later on that I know I'm going to need?
But that's putting the generalship back in the game, Ricky.
Oh no! Did that come across like I'm not liking this? Because
Okay.
it's phenomenal. I love this. That's what I'm saying. Is it forces you to play that game within the game. It's to me it's a little more fun version of the psychic dice. The dice pool. Like when you'd be casting your spells and you'd try to get off the ones or fake out the guy and make him burn his deny the witch dice early, so that then you could get something off and sneak one by him so he can't deny it. And I think we're going to see that with stratagems too, and the command points. Do I try to spend a few here and there where it's not super important for me to get him to waste some, or you're going to see a lot of fun play there. I think
What
it's going to be
is
interesting.
that most armies are going to have, they're not going to have the 9, 10, 11, 12. I think that what we're going to probably find is that a lot of armies have 5, 6 command points to spend.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to get 3 because pretty much everybody's going to have a battalion detachment, or I assume people are going to really focus in on a battalion detachment. That's going to give them 3. And like you're saying, Gilliman or somebody, they're going to throw a little more into the army. We can expect that. We're going to see command points sprinkled in here and there for flavor. But the brigade detachment, geez, that's a that's a tough get. You got what, 3 HQ, 6 troops, 3 elites, 3 fast attacks, and 3 heavy
That's fine.
support.
That's Mephiston, 2 Librarius Dreadnoughts.
Just running through it there. How many Death Companies getting in there?
Yeah, at least 15. So let's jump to the part of the rules though. Again, it said in matched play. Remember, these rules are going to have a certain behavior in narrative play and open play, and then and it seems to be a little bit of more refined, tailored behavior in match play. In match play, these stratagems have an additional restriction that the same stratagem cannot be used by the same player more than once during any single phase. So that one that lets you pass a morale check, you're only saving 1 squad, which is fine. You're only interrupting combat once, and you're only rerolling 1 die per phase. So, but all those things I just described could happen in turn 1. It is conceivable you burn through every single one of your command points in turn 1 of the game.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily mind that. I think that's what if that's what it takes to win or hold on or to endure that first difficult round before you can start picking things off with your opponent. That's just what you got to do.
Yeah. And I think that's actually what this is going to do is allow you to, we all have that one buddy who, burns his dice after every game or throws them in the garbage and goes and buys a new set of dice because he failed that charge roll, or he failed that morale test every time, or he can't make a 2-up save to save his life. And so what these stratagems are going to do is they're going to kind of keep you in the game. If you play it right, they'll keep you in the game just a little longer, or they'll let you make that super critical charge that just has to happen, or those things that just have to happen.
I don't even mind saying what I'm about to say. Like, I would have paid like real dollars for this. Like, I need to spend $5 to get Night Fight round 1.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Now, obviously, that's not a 1-to-1, but it does say that in narrative and open play, most missions will include a few extra stratagems too, representing things like preliminary bombardment, proximity mines, and silenced weapons, and whatever narrative stuff. But what if that this actually becomes something that works its way into competitive missions, to where there is because there's going to be stratagems, as you mentioned before, dedication to the army, dedication to a 4-sword chart, whatever, distillation of keywords and stuff like that. But what if it works its way into actually the missions, where there's a couple of stratagems there too? As a mission designer, this is compelling to me to at least ponder about the ability to do that.
Well, and it would be so easy to incorporate, and you could just tweak it as needed too. Because think about that. What if we go to Warzone Atlanta 2017 and there's a mission there, and we roll up, and for the progressive objectives, for every turn we hold this objective, we generate a command point or something. It would be huge. Think about how much more exciting it would be to hold those objectives throughout the game. I think we could really see some fun things like that.
If that's an actual viable thing, I think it's going to be exciting for mission builders to explore that. And I think it's cool that they've kind of already thought about it. I'm willing to bet that we're going to see more stratagems come out in things like White Dwarfs on the community site. They'll get released with certain characters in the future. You take this character, he opens up this stratagem that you can do once per round.
The sky's the limit on these. I think we can we can sit here and think about what we'd like to see, what we're probably going to see, and you can wish list almost as much on stratagems as you can on your army list. But
with this for match play though, they've got the restrictions in there that keep it pretty sane. Like, even the most ridiculous thing here that we're seeing so far out is these 3 now is the insane bravery, or the rerolls. You could pretend to be Fate Weaver for every phase of the game. For turn 1,
Yeah.
But they've got these restrictions. Like, you're not going to have an infinite number of command points, from what we can tell, and that you can't use the same one more than once per phase.
Yeah, the system looks simple to understand and implement, and I think it's exciting. And I'm having a hard time looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is going to break the game," or this, somebody's going to do this, and this. I think it just adds a little extra element without a lot of bookkeeping. I think it's good.
Well, everyone gets access to it. You're going to have something that may come up as relevant, right?
Yeah, I'm just running through here. Like, you can sit here and look at these 3 stratagems alone and think about every phase of the game and where as you play it now, and think about when you would like to have had, stuff like this. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, man. This is just a whole nother level of strategy to the game. This is we mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, but there'll be times when, and it's not like it's a secret. It's still you're gonna know what your opponent has access to.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun thing about it. It's not like one of those, gotcha, you didn't know about this rule that I have. No, it's a core rule of the game that everyone has access to, but you don't know when they're going to access it, and that's a lot of fun. It's going to make for some exciting times on the tabletop. I know for a fact though that half of my games, I would say the first 3 games that I play, I'm going to forget to use them. Hands down.
Until your opponent uses one, you're like, oh wait.
Yeah, no, I will counteroffensive that, sir.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Oh, man, all this stuff I've seen is. I hope you guys can tell that are listening that the enthusiasm that we have translated for the game. Everything here that I've read so far is for the general betterment of the game. They're not great for all my armies, by what I've been accustomed to playing for the last few years or so. But I think this is going to give us all a much better experience with our toys.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be some growing pains for certain people and certain lists. And, I don't want to be like, well, get over it. But come on, guys, get over it. We're getting an awesome edition. Look at everything you've seen coming out, how exciting it is. And don't let one little change affect your excitement about this edition. There's just too much fun stuff that we're getting ready to see. For crying out loud, even a Gorkanaut looks good now.
Well, they've certainly presented it in a way that everything seems to have some excitement built into it. But I think that's the cross section between, in our mind, what it should have always done, coming out to what it will do on the table. And I think there's going to be a better blend of that.
Absolutely. If we can bridge that gap between the novels and the tabletop. Man, it's going to be the greatest game ever. 8th edition will be the best thing that's ever happened.
It's different, but everything I've seen is encouraging me to want to play it. And I've been, what I'm doing, for the finishing move segment right now, let's actually talk about hobby projects and things you can do in the in-between time. Because, I will say my desire to really roll 7th edition dice is a lot lower than it used to be. It's lower than it, and with each passing day, it gets lower.
Yeah, we've got a tournament coming up on the 27th. It'll probably be our last 40k tournament in Gate City in 7th edition. So my normal big crew that comes in, I've already had 1 or 2 of them just be like, I'm not playing. Well, I'm not playing until 8th edition. So
let me talk about that fatigue for a second. And I think it's important. By the way, this segment is sponsored by Frontline Gaming. They have recently opened up sales for the SoCal Open, which will be an 8th edition tournament happening in October of this year. It's in a very, very beautiful part of the country. I think it's going to be especially beautiful depending on where you're coming from during that time of the year. And tickets are moving. It's going to be a giant event. It's going to be a great place to get some ITC points. I definitely encourage folks to it's Frontline. They're going to put on a great event. You're going to have a good time. And there's going to be lots of people you recognize there.
You're going to be on the beach in October, so take the wife.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then they've got all the mat designs that they've got recently now. They're rolling out what seems like a new design every other week or so, and not just for 40K. They've got your 4x4s covered, your 4x6s covered. Any type of miniature game, they have some type of slick pro surface for you to roll dice on.
Yeah, that war-torn, snow-covered city that I'm looking at right now is about to go in old Ricky's cart.
Check it out, frontlinegaming.org, and they also have terrain that matches some of their some of their mats. So it's basically one-stop shopping to get kind of a pro experience. I've talked enough about it. Check them out. It's good stuff, man. I roll dice on it. I love the way they look, and I think they're good guys. And it's always good to support good guys. So the people that support this show, folks like Frontline, Dice Head, it's definitely worth checking them out.
Absolutely.
But where I was going with the finishing move segment, general hobby stuff is, and I know we've covered this in various capacity, but during this time of fatigue, I think that you mentioned that, and there's the Gulf Coast Alliance GT coming up at the first weekend in June. Support your local events and even the larger events that you may have to travel an hour or so to, even during this period of like the in-between times, because that's, without knowing what the release date is, you had to take the weekends that were available to you to run your events. So it's a worthwhile endeavor to support those events so they show up next year. So the events continue to go on and it doesn't put us all in a weird space. And you're going to be hanging out, rolling dice, drinking some beers with cool folks. It's always worth it to go to these tournaments.
And if you think about it, guys, just because 8th is coming out doesn't invalidate the games you're playing. You're still going to have fun playing those games. Go play, because it was good enough for y'all to play all this year. So just because 8th is coming out doesn't mean your game isn't fun. And you better take, those Death Stars for one last hurrah.
Oh, don't. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
I'm looking at mine right now. I actually told all of my players, whoever brings the most 7th edition list, I'm going to give a special prize to. So right now we have a guy from Knoxville who is threatening to bring 2 Supremacy suits. So I told him he'll probably get a prize for that.
He'll probably get a prize for that.
Yeah. So
he's not going to have any friends, but he'll have whatever that prize is.
Well, everybody who knows him is just expecting it anyway. So
Fair.
We love him in spite of it. But there it is. So, but the pressure's off for, it's like coming up with those 7th edition lists and stuff. The pressure's off. So I've got my Warlord projects that are going to I'm looking at 2 Warlords right now.
This is what you're doing during the downtime. You're doing some things that you're going to need anyway, or ready for.
When is a Warlord not going to be good? Now, when's a Warlord going to go to a tournament? I think 3,500 points needs to be the new tournament standard.
3,507 points.
3,507. You'd work that out for some Blood Angels, I think, somewhere. But trying to get Titans build. I'm working on some Custodes for 30K. So I'm literally surrounded by resin right now. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Well, and it's great. The pressure's off.
Yeah, I've been painting my Sylvaneth for Sigmar. That's certainly something I've been, and I'm almost done. I am probably 3/4 of the way done with the Dryads, and that's going to give me a 2,000 point list. Then I'm going to paint all these forests, which I'm not necessarily looking forward to that, but I think it's going to look really sharp on the table.
It is. And here's the thing. Those forests basically become your display board too. That's half the work for your display board.
Yeah.
Boom.
And they do a lot of damage on the table when you start awakening them.
They're so annoyingly good. Do you know what it's like to charge through a piece of terrain and lose 3 models out of 5 because you can't roll, higher than a 1? They're so good for you don't have to waste your models putting them there. You just use your terrain as denial units. Sylvaneth are fun. They got some cool tricks.
So I've been painting those but I also broke out my Blood Angels, and I'm rebasing all the, because I haven't played the Blood Angels like Chris. I've played them in certainly in capacities of like Scouts and Dante, a priest on a bike, that level, a Librarius Dreadnought here and there just to mess around. But I haven't really been hitting the bricks with them, hitting the tournament scene with them, and so they didn't get the updates. They didn't get the transition to 32 mil bases.
Yeah, I think I don't know that I saw a single Blood Angel in your possession at any of the events we were at this year together. So it's always weird to me because you love them so much, and then I see you playing Eldar, and I'm like, what the crap, Paul?
I want to play them. I've always wanted them. And I played them here, certainly casually because I do care about them so much. But I didn't sit down because my hobby crunch times are getting ready for tournaments.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm going to spend, the 10 hours or 10 days leading up before a tournament, it's going to be, working on whatever I've got to do to wreck face. And Blood Angels just weren't up there on that chart.
Right. But that's what I'm saying right now. Get them out and play with them and take one last lap with them. I did it with my Deathwing army the other day. I played against a buddy of mine with my pure Deathwing army with Land Raiders in it. which are nothing but a liability right now. But I put Land Raiders on the table, Terminators, and I played against my buddy. He had Sisters of Battle, 2 Forge World Flyers, some Lehman Russes, and it was all over the place. And it was one of my favorite games I've had this year because both of us just chilled out, relaxed, and just kind of enjoyed the sunset of 7th edition, and it was fun.
These guys are going to come in like a bolt of lightning in 8th edition. So I am getting them all as now. Look, I'm speculating. So what am I doing? I'm putting all my Death Company on 32 mils. I've got 30 Death Company guys that are going on 32 mils. I've got the aforementioned embarrassment of Assault Marines. So I'm putting 120, 30, 40, whatever it is, Assault Marines on 32 mil bases. I transferred Mephiston over to a 32 mil. Just getting them ready.
Yeah, well, that's what you should do. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Freshen them up, get their makeup on, get them ready for prom, and wait for opening day. I mean, it's going to be exciting, man. I'm like, how are you basing those? Are you I'm in love with the texture paints now. I think I say it like every time I'm on the show, but
dude,
the GW texture paints have like changed my life when it comes to basing.
They are very good. You can get an organic, and when I say organic, it looks natural. You get a natural looking texture on your base. And
it doesn't look like kitty litter like mine used to.
It's all the granulars are appropriate scale and whatever. But I'm using Lustrian Undergrowth for my Sylvaneth, and that and a coat of dry brush of some Commando Khaki or whatever the new color is now. It looks perfect, man. I get a little bit more complex with what I use for my 40k stuff, and I did. I'm still in the habit of in the Allies world, and I don't know that we're still going to be in the Allies world, but I wanted all my bases across my things that could ally together to look similar. And that's so I'm still in that mode, but I've got I picked something that I like, the way it looks. So, but it's probably for the BA, it's a little bit darker brown than I would want, for them specifically, but it matches everything else I've got and still looks good. But it's definitely revolves around texture paints, different layers of color on the texture paints, and then some of the grass tufts.
I love those things. I get them stuck to my thumb every time I pull them off. I don't know which ones you use, but I actually, I have the Citadel ones, that adhesive backing that's already on them. Like everybody says to put a little glue down. I don't even do that. Like I just go straight onto the tacky stuff that's on the bottom of them. It holds onto that texture paint just fine. And I keep getting them stuck.
This is not a plug. I use Shadow's Edge tufts, and they have flowers. That's what I have. I have flowers on my Sylvaneth.
Are those the ones we saw? Is that the company that gave some out at a tournament we were at?
Yeah, at Warzone. You got a pack at Warzone.
Yes, those look great, man. Those were. Hold on one second. Nope, I've got them here in my hand. I've got a pack right here in my hand.
The adhesive on those is second to none. They simply just stick. They do what you want them to do. You can peel it right off and stick it right on.
Yeah, well, see, you should do that. What I do is I peel them right off and promptly stick them to my thumb, and then I have to peel them off again, and then they stick. So it's just an extra step. I just like to go that extra mile and make sure I do it right. But yeah, I love those things. I never used those until recently, and I just like they give a little extra something to your model, and I love them.
Well, we talked about this in a previous segment, but you want to make sure that that millimeter, the difference when there's some out there that are 2 millimeter and 6 millimeter, you got to think about it versus the height of your figure. So if the 6 millimeter is going to look like an Imperial Guard member is standing in grass up to his waist.
Yeah, he's like fighting in a hayfield.
Well, or at least past his knees or whatever. I mean, maybe you don't want that, but that's what those millimeter numbers mean. So you're getting them for 28 millimeter scale, but it's 2 millimeters. You want it to come up to his ankles, and you're looking at the 2 millimeters. You want it past his knees, it's the 6. So it's, again, you can trim it too. You can cut your own grass. I'm going to tell you how to handle your business.
That tiny little lawnmower.
But where I was going with that, not to get us back on a basing topic, although we could probably talk all day on different ways to do that. I'm noticing that some of my figures after the years of neglect, there's some chips on them, so maybe the like shoulder, it could be, a shoulder pad needs to be replaced. And that's what I'm doing. I have metal shoulder pads on my Blood Angels, and I'm going to replace them all with plastic.
I don't know that I have the patience to do that, but it's a good idea because, gosh, those metal ones, you breathe on them wrong, they chip. So
they're a slightly different scale. They were made 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're a slightly different scale, even on the Marines that they're on. So with the size creep, and close. But I did it because at the time that was the only solution for Blood Angel shoulder pads with the embossed chapter symbol.
You got to do what you got to do, Paul.
But that's what I did. But now with the Death Watch kits and the Blood Angel TAC kits and everything else, there are plenty of options. And now this is during this time of, of course, want to be up to my elbows in 40K, So what am I going to do? I'm not going to go out and build another army. I'm certainly not going to paint 20 more zombies, whatever. Let me get one of my favorite armies ready for the table.
I think that's the best thing. Just get everything like ready to go. That way you're not playing catch up when we get the rules. That way you can just go straight at it.
I hope I'm not sending anybody down a bad path or getting their hopes up too much, but I believe that we will see things that we care about. And it's a good bet that if figures weren't that great before, they're probably going to be a little bit better now. But I'm willing to believe that if you really dig on a model, then you're probably going to be able to find a way to work it into using it in the edition.
Don't think that every single model out there is going to be just the end all be all, the greatest thing ever. Exactly. Yeah. Everything's going to be right. But everything is going to, I don't want to say everything, but almost everything is going to fit. It's going to make sense for what you expect it to do to what it does. And I think you're going to have a lot more flavor out of your models, and I think you're going to want to put them on the table, not because they're super strong at what they do, but because they're going to feel like what they're supposed to feel like on the table. And
maybe taking them gives you that last slot filled to get those 3 extra command points or whatever.
Get them, dude. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to figure out how to build a brigade. It's happening.
Well, Ricky, man, thanks for joining me today, filling in for the rest of the guys. We should be back to normal next week. And then, man, I'm pumped. Check us out on YouTube, the Forge Narrative YouTube page for the daily updates, reactions to what we're getting from Games Workshop. And then, man, check us out on Facebook with all this stuff we've been posting. Good night, Ricky.
Sounds good. Good night, buddy.
Why is the rum gone?